Now, our Farhana Khera, Executive Director of Muslim Advocates and former counsel to the Senate Judiciary Committee. Thank you very much for being here. So let's talk a little bit about, Farhana, about whether or not the Trump administration, in your view, in this hearing, managed to convince, in your view, managed to make a convincing case that this was just part of presidential discretion and that it was not per se a Muslim ban because it didn't apply to every Muslim in every country around the world.
Yeah. Well, good evening, Joy, and thanks for having me. Let me first say that today was a good day for democracy, regardless of the outcome of this case. And I know the judges said they wouldn't be ruling today, but they will be ruling very soon. And the reason I say that is because I think during the hearing, it became very clear that the judges were probably not going to buy the government's argument that the courts should defer to the president when it comes to matters of immigration in this context. It seemed like they were quite dismissive of that. And I think that's crucially important because of what's at stake here for people's lives, and because, unfortunately, we have a president who seems to think that he can run the United States like he has his own personal business and not be accountable to anyone.
Well, one of the arguments that was interesting, one of the questions that was posed by the conservative judge, I believe he was a George W. Bush appointee, was whether or not the fact that the government can make specific policy about, let's say, Cuba or North Korea and make country-specific policy, does that not permit the Trump administration to make country-specific policy and just pick these 7 countries?
So I think this kind of, your question, Joy, gets to the question of when courts are reviewing a president's decision, what should be the standard for that review? And I think there's 2 crucial things here. One is a president's decision should be rooted in the facts. It should have a rational basis. And number 2, it cannot be discriminatory. And I think in both regards, the judges certainly displayed a lot of cynicism, and I think even just broadly from the pleadings that were submitted, there's a lot of concern about whether this truly was a rationally based policy, especially given the fact that it was issued just 1 week after the president was inaugurated, and by published accounts, it's clear that this policy was created basically by Steve Bannon and a small group of people immediately around the president. There was not a consultation process with key cabinet officials and agencies. In fact, there's a report that Homeland Security Secretary Kelly was being asked for his input on the order as the president was signing the order. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, does the fact that Donald Trump during the campaign said that he was calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on, the fact that he said that, the fact that Rudy Giuliani did call it a Muslim ban and said that Trump called him up and asked how to make it legal, will that wind up being, in your view, a big factor in how this decision comes down?
I think that's going to be a big factor, Joy, and the reason is because context matters. It's clear that the judges are going beyond just reading the literal words on that executive order, and they understand that there's a context involved here, and that includes the president calling repeatedly for a Muslim ban, and for those people around him, especially Steve Bannon, who had a heavy role in this policy, and his long record of anti-Muslim animus. So that is clear that that's part of the court's consideration.
All right. Well, Farhana Khera, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And joining me now, Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon. All right, Senator.